Good evening, good evening. I am Renee Williams, and today we are on step 5. Step 5 is a step about integrity and a confession. Making, they called it too, step 5 is called the confession step. Before we get started, hi y'all, how y'all doing? I'm in a different place because I'm getting the house painted. But thank you all. Hello to everybody. Let us take a few minutes to thank God, the man that I love and serve, the God of our understanding. Give him some thanks. Thank you, God, for allowing us to get back on here to the end of a week. Thank you for all my listeners. Thank you for all my followers. I thank y'all so very much. May you continue to bless them all. Thank you for allowing us to understand what being clean means, the freedom of living and without the use of drugs and alcohol. My God, I thank you, my God. All right. Shout out to the ones who celebrate 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 6 months, 9 months, a year, and multiple of years. I celebrate to you all. It is not always easy. This disease of an addiction is killing our peoples. Every time I go on Facebook or every time I see the news, our peoples are dying. The addiction is still doing what it's supposed to do. People still think they okay. People still think they don't have a problem. People still think that drugs and alcohol is not a drug, but it is a drug. And thank God for the therapists. I want to give a shout out to the therapists and the counselors that have helped everyone that come across their path to get their lives back together. You know, I know what it is to be a user. I've been there, done that. And I know what it is that you got to do for yourself to get clean. I've been there and done that. And so I'm so grateful to the 12 Steps of Narcotics Anonymous program, because the step teaches us how to get our lives in order and how to maintain what we're reading and allow it to come into our lives like I did. You know, I allowed it to just take over. I just read it and kept reading it and kept reading it. But step 5 says, for the ones that give a shout out to my peoples, the ones that lost a loved one to addiction, whether it was alcohol, drugs, whether it was the pills, the Adenol, whether it was this one, the fentanyl. You know, shout out to the ones that was left behind to go on and do what they need to do to continue to live, but keep their loved ones in their heart. I keep my son in my heart every day, you know, and I know that keeps me going, because anytime you lose a mother, child, father, sister, or uncle, or nephew, anybody that you know, a mother that was close to you, it's heartbreaking. And don't nobody have to tell me, because I done lost a mother, a dad, I done lost a son, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that area. But today I give a shout out to the ones who still here and carry them in their heart and continue to live. You know, I thank God for that. I thank God that you made it possible to endure the pain that our loved ones had left us behind to deal with. So I celebrate you all today. Today we are on step 5, and this step 5 is so amazing. It is so very rewarding. I gotta say it's very rewarding because, you know, this step talks about integrity will get us. I always have a hard time interrogate, but main of all, it's a confession step. It's a confession step. It says we admit to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact natures of our wrongs. And some people read that, and some of them don't understand it. But from step 4, it's really related to, you put step 4 and that step 5 together, is really the step that really wins your heart over, because now you are feeling some kind of way, because now you have made a confession out of your mouth where you can hear what you're saying. Yeah, it was really scared. This was really a scared step for me. Once I started doing the inventory and was scared to what it might reveal about me. Not about nobody else, not about my sister, mother, what it will reveal about you. That's why I like this step, because it brings out the ugly, it brings out the good, it brings out confessions, brings out feelings, it brings out a whole lot of stuff. Hidden secrets, past mistakes, old feelings of what we have done in the past, how we hurt somebody, or how we mistreated somebody. This step, you must change when you're dealing with this step. You have to. And I had to do this step with my sponsor, somebody that we can trust and understand and hold, somebody that can listen and hold. This step is also about courage and trust the process. You got to trust the process of recovery. Some people ain't there. They ain't going to get there yet until something tragic happens that really get their attention. When people drink and use drugs, they think their lives is together. They think they got all the answers. But if you did, you wouldn't make all the mistakes and stupid mistakes that you make. I know I did. I know I made a lot of stupid mistakes, caused harm to a lot of people, and that's why it says we have to admit to God as a confession. We have to admit the things that we done wrong, but some people don't want to admit. They continue to drink and use because that's who they think that's helping them out. Accepting the truth of our behaviors without denying or self-pity. Yeah, I had to accept the truth. I didn't want to, but I had to. I had to do some soul searching. We have to learn how to get behind and not get on that self-pity and tell on our disease and tell on our behaviors and why we do the things that we do. Another person sharing the truth or trust listeners such as sponsors. Yeah, I trusted my sponsor, and I watched her for a whole year, and I got a good sponsor and still got her. And still got it. The primary spiritual principle of this step is honesty, humility, and integrity. That's the all about this step. All about this step that I didn't want to do. But now I'm so grateful that I did do it. Because I wouldn't be where I'm at if I hadn't. Straight up, I wouldn't be where I'm at if I hadn't. Integrity. I looked the word up, integrity. What do that mean? Refusing to hide part of our past or our character. And that's what I did. That's what I did. Start hiding. Start hiding. That's what I did. I remember that, how I hid. Refusing to be truthful. So I hid parts of my past or parts of your past. That's what you did too. You didn't tell everybody at once what had happened and what you had did, but I didn't either. And some of you did. Some of you might have, but I didn't. I held on to the painful part that I didn't even want nobody to know with my sponsor. And she told me until I get truthful and honest, I'm gonna be in a place to where I gave a little, but ain't learned a lot. You know, you have to learn in this progress with this step. This step is very deep. It's a confession step. It's getting, admitting yourself to God, to ourselves, and to another human being. You know, then they say, what is honesty? Practicing truthfulness. Instead of rationalizing it or minimizing it, past actions. That's what it is. You can't lie. You got to be honest. You got to understand that these steps mean what they say, and they work if you work the steps. You know, but some people, we got time for drugs, we got time for alcohol, we got time for everything else, but we don't give ourselves time to work these steps and understand these steps. So when we run into problems, when we run into situations in our lifetime being free from drugs, then you have something that you can work with. You got something that you can handle. You got something that you can use as a backup plan. You know, a lot of people don't look at it like that. I did. I searched it. I looked the words up, and I used it as a backup plan because I knew I was going to need it again once we run into things and our behavior start acting up. Because we clean. We can't use. We can't take nothing. We can't use no more. So, you know, so you got to have a backup plan. What is your backup plan? You know, if you ain't working the steps and you're not doing what you're supposed to, then what backup plan do you have? And I had a backup plan. I had a sponsor. I had recovering friends. I had meetings. I had support system. I made it possible for me to have everything I needed in case something else happened. You know, honesty, practicing truthfulness. That's what this is about. Confession, telling the truth, being honest. Hey, Stella, good to see you, honey. Step 5, that's what step 5. When we admit to God and to ourselves and to another human being the exact nature of our wrong, that's what this step means. Making a confession, being honest, stop hiding. Stop trying to rationalize it or minimize the past, you know, and humility. You know, I had to look that up. Humility of the ego and pride, because that's what a step in. Ego and pride a step in, and take over. I mean, seriously, take over. You know. Not wanting you to remember that you are a recovering addict. Courage, getting to know and find the inner strength to face deep fears and share painful secrets. I didn't want to say, you know, this step is about confession into God, into ourselves, into another human being. And my sponsor got the biggest of it all. She came into my life. I pulled her into my life. I watched her, pulled her into my life. And I had the courage of letting her know how I truly was feeling. And all the stuff that I had done, all the secrets that I didn't tell nobody. I had to free myself, because if I didn't free myself, what was the point of working step 5? What is the point of working any step? But step 5 is about honesty. It's about confession. It's about feelings. It's about, you know, getting your ego out the way and your pride out the way. And you have to learn that once you really want something for yourself, can't nobody stop you from getting it. Couldn't nobody stop me from staying clean. I was going to stay clean no matter what happened, no matter what stones was threw at me, no matter what burdens that was put on me. I was never going to use again. No matter what health problems came in my life, no matter what situations came in my life, and that's how you supposed to feel. You know, but when you we used to escaping, we used to running. We used to, when something happened, we run, we get high, we hid, we make excuses. We're not being honest. We honest about some things, but not honest about all things. And I found that I struggled with that. Because me using drugs all them years, I really didn't have the foundation of knowing what honesty was. Because I had lied so much to get the drug of my choice. I had lied so much to drink. I had lied so much to pop the pill. You know, and the only way you're going to get freedom from active using is to tell on your disease. Isolated. We isolated so much it ain't even funny. We good and isolated. We good in running. We good in hiding. We good in not opening up. We good in keeping our mouth closed. We find a way not to let anybody get in. But I was willing, when I started working these steps, of letting somebody in, because I done messed my whole life up. You know, I done messed some situations that I know better. But they said when you know better, you do better. That's what was told of me through my sponsor. When you know better, you do better. You know, speaking your hidden past about how to deflate, how you let go of your ego and let go of your... That's what you got to do. All that's got to go away for you to do this step. And step 4, that helped me get here to step 5. You know, we can't call ourselves working a program when we really not. Because you know what's going to happen? It's going to backfire on us. We're going to find ourselves in a situation where we back to using again, over and over and over again. But I refused not to use again. I was captivated by the words that I heard when they said, you know, you have to let go and never use again. I was captivated by that part. I can never use again no matter what. And I kept saying that. We must keep saying that I can never ever use again. Some of us slip up. Some of us sure enough slip up. And sometimes when you slip up, it's hard coming back from the slip up. And the worst part is that you might not make it back. You know, God might have done heard all your lies we done gave to him and said to him, and we might not make it back. Secret keeps us sick. It keeps us, you know, I think, you know, holding on to secrets keep heavy, it keeps heavy burdens alive. Say things out loud. It's better to say things out loud when we work in this step so we can hear what we say. You know, because if you don't, then you never say it, then you never hear it, and you don't get used to saying it. But I did. I repeated. See that your past mistakes is not who you are today. That's not who you are. Say things out loud helps you see what you are not, your past. And that's what I found out in this step too. It was so good to work this step because this step reminded me that me saying it out loud and recognizing it and admitting it, see that you are not your past mistakes. And that's what got me. Because I made mistakes and because I failed at certain things, these steps let you know you are not your past mistakes. because we clean now. We act different, we think different, we do different. You know? So I had to understand that. A safe place for us. You know, I had to find a safe place for me and my sponsor to go and work the steps. To second nature, I had to tell her the second natures of my wrongs. What I have done. What I didn't really want to do, but what I have done. And I had to go to a safe place for me and her to be alone. And I had to get naked, honest. I had to tell her the truth. And it was very painful. You know, see, this step here is very rewarding, because some things that you never talked about, or things that you didn't want to share with nobody, things that you thought you was going to carry to the grave, you are now talking about it. And it kind of threw me when me and my sponsor was in a safe place where I can feel safe, and I trusted her. I had to learn to trust her. I had to give up something in order to get something. I didn't trust everybody. That was one of my biggest problems. We come into recovery and we feeling good, but I still had a trust issue. And I couldn't trust nobody, because many people that I trusted hurt me or hurt you. So you have to learn how to just start on a slow process of getting to know who's going to be listening to you, who you going to be telling your wrongs to, who you going to be crying to. So it took me a year to get my sponsor. But I knew from day one who my sponsor was going to be. But I had to watch my sponsor. I had to watch the ones that I'm going to be telling all my wrong stuff to, my secrets to. So I had to learn how to work in a slow process. This step is not a speedy step. These 12 steps is not for you to run through it and think you got it when you ain't worked no steps. So I had to learn how to work these steps and apply them to my life, because my life was in rumbles. It was in rumbles. Honesty, I had to find out, is not life-threatening. To be honest is the best thing that you can do. It makes you feel better about yourself. It removes the ego out the way. You ain't got to rationalize nothing. You ain't got to minimize nothing. All you got to do is just be honest. Some of us still ain't got there yet. Some of us still holding on to the thing that they think making everything work out. But it's not. It's not making everything work out. It's making everything worse. People's is dying out there. We done lost enough people's in recovery to know that these drugs and whatever kind of drugs they got now, where we see our people's on the ground, they ain't in their heads, they falling all out, they falling on people's porches and dying right on the steps. Come on, y'all. This ain't no joke. I don't know what kind of stuff is out here now, but I know it's killing our peoples. And you never know when it's going to hit your home, or your child, or your mother or father. You got to learn about how to deal with a recovering addict, or how to deal with an addict. Because recovering addicts know how they are. They worked on themselves, but you got to know how to deal with an addict. If you got a using daughter, using child, using son, you got to know how to deal with that. That's why I said it's just good for a person to know any addiction that you have to still work the same step to get the same progress out of it. You know, I had to find out that honesty was the best way to go in my life. And I was tired of holding on to stuff, using while I was still holding on to stuff, not being honest, couldn't hardly sleep because I didn't tell the truth. I was hurting too bad. You know, when y'all get to that point to where you know that your life isn't right, You already know that. You already know all that. We foster a profound shift toward words, releasing. And this the part I like. This is what I wrote last night. Honesty is not a lifetime threatening thing. We foster a profound shift to realizing grace and personal peace. Come on, Renee. You hear what I said? Personal peace. Hey, Robin. Good to see you, baby. Good to see you. I'm so proud of you, too. The way you handle losing your mother. I'm very proud of you. Honesty is not a life-threatening thing. You know, we shift in many different shifts. You know, when I worked this step, I was so pleased to know that I had a support system. I had somebody I can talk to. I had to lean on my sponsor in order to admit to God, and to myself and to another human being the exact natures of all the wrongs I have done. And I had been holding all them wrongs for years. I had never told nobody the things that I told my sponsor. That's why my surroundings where me and her talked had to be a safe place, and my house was one of them. And then we would find a restaurant to go to so we can work on them steps so I can get better. If I don't work the steps, I can't get better. If I don't work the steps, I hold on to the same character. I hold on to the same resentments. I hold on to the same being angry all the time. I had to find a new way to live, so I had to put something in my life that was going to feed me and was going to keep feeding me the things that I needed to change. All the steps I imported, not all of them is easy. But if it was so easy, if it was really easy, people would run through it. I'm glad the steps wasn't easy. I'm glad that you had to do some searching and some paperwork and some Googling and some reading. I'm glad we got to that point that we had to do that. I am so glad of that. You know, because, you know, health and recovery and freedom from a life of drugs is the best thing that I got out of this whole situation that I ain't never got to use again. I don't want to use again, God. I've been there, done that, did that. And I need a change in our lives. I look at, like I said, I see all these people's diet. I don't know what kind of drugs they giving them, what they putting in them. But to see our black peoples and white peoples and any kind of nationality, I see them all falling on the streets and, you know, and my heart be broken. My heart be broken because they're in a desperate stage in their life where they going to either live or they going to die. Simple. Straight up simple. You know, and the consequences of our own actions. You know, self-examination and personal and accountability for our own actions. I didn't want to be accountable. I didn't want accountability for my actions. I didn't want to do none of that. I just wanted to use. I didn't think about it. I didn't want to think about the stuff that made me start using. I didn't want to think about the stuff that caused me to change my whole personality and my character. But I had to. I had to get a step. And this step 4 helped me get to step 5. Because step 4 and step 4 is preparing you for step 5. But they both are kind of united together. And I noticed that about this step. You know, self-examination means we got to work on ourselves. We got to figure out what's going with us. We got to figure out why is it so hard for us to stop using drugs. We got to figure out why our attitude and our behavior is the way that it is. Why do I get angry so fast? Why am I mad? Why am I choosing to die instead of live? You got to do some examination and some personal accountability of your own action of what we done in using. And the consequences of our action, traits and our patterns of behaviors. We got some bad behaviors when we were using. I know we did. Ain't nobody got to tell me. When I was using, I ran the alcohol and drugs for everything. My kids didn't know I was on drugs and alcohol for a long time until I started making stupid mistakes. I started staying up late, all late, and it was a mess. I wouldn't wish that on nobody. Real talk. The drugs will take over your whole life. You will wonder, how did you become homeless like you did so fast? You will be wondering, why did you let yourself go and you got all these health problems that you didn't pay attention to, that you didn't help yourself with, because the drugs and the alcohol was more important than anything else. See, I had to learn that until you become important, until you learn to love yourself, you're going to create other problems for you. And you think because you got out of that situation or you made it through that situation, you can still be playing Russian roulette. That's what I'm talking about. Me. I played Russian roulette with my life. And through all the using I've done, I created some things that I had to make sure that I had to understand my accountability for my own action, like the health problems I got, or what I went through in my addiction to make my health problems even worse, to not even care. So when I admitted to God, I was admitting a whole lot of things to God. And when I started talking to the sponsor, man, I couldn't stop bawling. I couldn't stop crying. But afterwards, I felt a whole 1,000 pounds of weight off of me, because I had finally opened up to somebody that was listening, was all ears for me. You need to find you a good sponsor. Don't find you got a sponsor that you got a person that's got all these sponsees. You ain't going to get the benefit out of that. When I got my sponsor, she only had 2 people. And that's what I wanted. Somebody that didn't have a whole bunch of people. Because if you got a whole bunch of people, where's room for me? And I'm important today. Y'all tell me, since I'm clean and I'm working a program and I'm working the 12 steps. Shout out to the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous program. You saved our lives. But when you tell me that I'm important, then I want the best from now on. I got to give myself the best from now on. And that was one of the things that I love about this step 5. Is recognizing the accountability and the freedom, and recognizing what I did. This step was a confession step to me. That's what it is. Confessing to God, confessing to my sponsor, confessing to my friends, all the wrongs I have done in my life. Going to a meeting, talking to other people, telling them what I seen, telling them what I did, telling them what wrongs I done. Man, this was a best step for me. No lie. My life was on the line. I had to fix something that I messed up. My life was on the line. I had put myself in the danger zone. Using drugs every day, lying every day. Misusing people to get the drugs that I needed every day. So I get to a point in my life to where now it's about me. It's about you. It's about changing the way you think, changing your behavior, changing your attitude, changing your atmosphere. It's a whole lot of things you got to do in order to stay clean. But it ain't hard. It ain't hard at all, so don't let nobody tell you it is. It ain't hard at all. Sometimes it ain't easy, but it ain't hard. Because once they told me no matter what happens in my life, and I found it to be true, and I had to admit to God and to other peoples and to friends and to my sponsor, and also as I was doing all this, admitting everything, I was helping me. I was helped cleaning out the closet. The closet hadn't been cleaned out in a long time. Some of y'all don't even know what cleaning out the closet was because you had so much in your closet you didn't even know what to do with it. So you kept balling pain on top of pain, misery on top of misery, denial on top of denial. Come on, y'all. Y'all know it. Y'all know it. The benefit of admitting your shortcomings is that we can use them to determine where we will grow hope and rebuild our lives. That's what it did for me. I was at a turning point in my life. Either I was going to die or either I was going to live. And I tried to take my life, but I was seeking help and didn't know how to seek it. Thank God for intervening when I did try to when I got to the point of my life where I thought I was a failure, I was a mess up, I was a nobody. You know, we give ourselves all them ugly titles because that's how we feeling inside. We feeling ugly. But right now, if I start to feel anyway ugly, I got to boost myself up. I got to put myself in a whole different atmosphere. I got to tell myself a whole bunch of different things to make me realize, to understand that's the enemy that's trying to take over. That's the enemy that's trying to take over. The exact natures of our wrong, some, same experience, same. Our feelings change when we come into recovery. We start looking at our accountability of what we've done. We start looking at how we can change our lives. And when we start to admit to God, we do something. Something happened. A message got through. And now God is tuned in. He always been tuned in. But once he heard you say it out your mouth and let go, and you can hear it yourself, stuff started happening for me. He started sending good peoples my way. He started introducing me to different meetings, started introducing me to different conventions. He started introducing me to other people that's been in the same situation. But to tell somebody all my wrongs, I hadn't got there. I just couldn't. I thought my wrongs were so bad. The way I done people. The way I done myself. And the way I done God. I had messed up. I was at a point in my life I thought I would die with God hating me. Serious talk. Until God had to just talk to me and say, Renee, you're my child. Nobody is perfect. We all make mistakes. But we all have to learn to forgive ourselves as whether to rather give to everybody else. Oh, thank you, honey. We have to learn that. We have to learn that we are important. And until you learn that, it shouldn't take a man to make you feel important. It shouldn't take nobody to make you feel important. That's something you work on for yourself. You know the parts in your mind that needs a raise. You need to raise yourself up in every area that you can in order to understand that, we are free from drugs. We don't use no more. We can't use. See, I can't even think about it. I can't even think about using. I know I can't use. I don't want to use. Life is too good to where I want to keep going. I don't want every day just for the day. That's why they say just for today. We have to admit to God, just for the day, we have to talk to ourselves. Just for the day, I got to talk to another human being about the wrongs I have done. And just for the day, for me, this confession step, step 5 is a confession step. It's an honesty step. It's a connection step. It's a step to free you from everything, the secrets, the lies, the hurts, the stuff that you did. It's a confession step. I made a confession to God. I made a confession to myself. I made a confession to my sponsor. And when you open your mouth and start talking, you're confessing something. And I thank God that I went through what I went through in order to get to where I'm at today. You know, sometimes people say, oh, she's so broken. Yeah, but she can get unbroken. Yeah, somebody told me, you so broken, you ain't gonna never change. That's a lie. That's a lie. I changed. And I didn't change for nobody but me. Because I had to always be pleasing me. Because I was a person that always, you was a person that always, most addicts are people pleasers. Ain't nobody even got to tell me that, because everybody, you know, do the same thing. Some people we take, some people got to please people. Addict. Always people pleasing. I wanted to be healthy. I wanted to get into recovery and a freedom from a life of drugs. I didn't want to use no more. Confession is always good for the soul. I had to learn that confession is always good for the soul. Personal accountability. Lift the shame, the guilt. I had to learn how to get some acceptance about how I was living. And if you can't do that, you're going to always bounce back and forth, back and forth. If you can't get honest and work steps, if you can't get honest to God and to yourself and to your sponsor, then you're going to always be bouncing back and forth, back and forth. I gave up my will to get God's will. Because God's will for me wasn't for me to live the way I was living. So I gave my will up. When I admitted to God all my wrongs, everything I have done, I was so fearful of this step. I was scared of this step because it was some things that I was going to have to say in this step to my sponsor that I didn't want to say to ever nobody. I didn't want to know. I didn't want Ed, my sponsor, and my sponsor was a good sponsor. Still got her as a sponsor, but I did not want her to know all the depths of my secrets of the ugly things that I had done, all the wrong things, all the wrong turns that I made. I didn't want nobody. I just thought that, I'd go along with it, and some things I won't tell and some things I will, but that didn't work out neither. You got to be honest with this step 5. You got to confess from your heart. You got to know what you're saying. You got to live what you're saying. In order to work this step, you already done saw some changes in yourself. Already. Can't keep isolating yourself. I had to find courage. Getting to know the inner me. Same thing you're going to have to do. Some of y'all take longer. Some of y'all, you got to learn how to free yourself, to get inside yourself, and to be honest so the outcome can be good. I know I messed up. I didn't need nobody to tell me I messed up. I didn't need nobody to tell me that I was a dope fiend. I didn't need nobody to tell me I was a crackhead. I became everything I talked about everybody else on. So I didn't need nobody to stress that out to me. I already knew who I was. But now the record of my past or what I done is not who I am today. That's not for you all neither. You know, you live your life, you do things, you start moving, you get a job, you go back to school, you start picking better people to be in your life. You start looking for love situations better, because sometimes when we was in the issue, I know I accepted anything that came my way. You know, I didn't care. You know, long as I was making love, long as I was in a relationship, that was important. But the important thing to me today is being in a relationship with myself. And once I learn and find out things about myself, working these steps and admitting things to God and know that God hears me and loves me and protects me, then I know I'm good on that part. And He's one that I know that ain't never forsake me. I had many friends. You all have had many friends who forsake you. Kids forsake you. You know, peoples forsake you. But I found the man I call God of my understanding have never forsaken me. Even when I was at my lowest point in recovery. I got low in recovery. When I got clean, I got low in recovery. You know, but the steps helped me get back up and how to understand and work these steps. Because, you know, the enemy wants us to think that we can never win. We'll always be a failure. We'll always be a loser. That's not true. Give yourself some time. Give yourself some nurturing. Give yourself some space to understand that, you know, you open up a door to let all them demons in. Now you got to open the door a little wiser to get all them demons out. I had to get a lot of them out. I had to say goodbye to drugs. That was a big thing for me. Oh, Lord, it was a big thing for me. I'll never forget how I had to cry and how I went through because I had to say goodbye to the only friend I had gained to be a good friend was drugs. I had to say goodbye. I don't need you. I don't want you in my life. You messed up my thinking. You messed up my growth. You messed up my foundation. You messed up my thought. You lived in my head. You kept me from gaining the wings that I wanted. You kept me from gaining the growth that I needed. So now I got to say goodbye because you're detrimental to me. I got to say goodbye and mean it. And I meant it. I meant what I said. No more drugs for me. You should say no more drugs for you all. You done. You're gonna die if you keep using. If you don't get yourself together, somebody gonna put something in there just to sell it to make some money, and you're gonna die like we seeing other people's die. We admit to God for a reason, and we admit to ourselves for a reason. We admit to other human beings for a reason. We need the help. We need the help. And I found myself in a place in my life to where I needed God more than he even thought I did. But He know my thinking. But I needed God to change my life, to get the fears out the way. See, the fears of you coming in will keep coming at you so you won't finish. Fears and the shame and the secrets. You know, because, I had to share that with my sponsor. I had to tell her about the isolation and the heavy shame I was carrying every day. That's why I used so much. I couldn't talk to everybody about what I had done wrong. I couldn't talk to nobody else about what I was carrying, because of my behavior and accountability that I wouldn't accept what I had done. I couldn't tell nobody that. But in this 12-step program, I learned what I love about the 12-step program. It wants you to open up so you can heal. It wants you to identify with everything that's in your being, to knowing what you did, it was wrong. Accepting accountability is growth. Understanding the disease of an addiction is growth. Understanding that you can't use no matter what is growth. The urge to keep secrets and keep lying and keep putting lies on top of lies. I was done with that. Shame of the stuff I had done. Shame of the wrongs I created in my life because I wanted to use. I've been a runner all my life. Not all my life, because these 36 years I ain't running from nothing. But the 30 years that I used, or the 30 years that I was dibbing and dabbing, then it wasn't no dibbing and dabbing no more. It was all the way using. All the way using. I reached a turning point in my life. I don't care what nobody else do. If they want to continue to use, I tell myself every day, I'm not ever going back. I'm not ever using again. You created some things for me in my life that I had to fight back to get, and that was my dignity. I had to learn how to be honest about everything, even when I didn't want to. Even when I didn't want to. Hey, Bernadette. Even when I knew I had to tell. Even when I know that this step 5, we are meant to guide into another human being, the exact natures of our wrongs. We knew then this was a well, I did. I knew then this was a confession step. Good to see you, Bernadette, baby. I knew then, when I read this, it was a confession step. It didn't take me to find it in the book. I just looking at it. Okay, man, this step want us to confess. It want us to open up. It want us to be honest. It want us to get them secrets out and stop lying to ourselves and be open and honest. Take some accountability and stop trying to rationalize everything. Just let it out. Let it out. Do you know how long I waited to let it out? You got to find something you can't keep. That's why I tell y'all, it's so important that I keep that women's support group meeting going on. We need each other. But sometimes you just can't find no woman that either don't want to be like you, or want to have what you have, or want to take what you got, or don't even want to be your friend, but just be there to play games. That's why I always had a trust with women. Because the way I carried myself, I found myself when I admitted to God the things that I had done. And that was wrong in my addiction because somebody hurt me, so I done them wrong. I mistreated them, and I had to talk to my sponsor about that, because the very person you trust is the very person that would turn on you and hurt you. So I always got a place, it's called protection mode. Every woman should have that. Because I ain't seen a woman yet that's been broken. I ain't seen a woman yet that done went through things. I ain't seen a woman yet that done lost a loved one or lost somebody that she loved. But you got to have a protection mode on you, and mine's is very protected. I have a hard time letting people in. I ain't gonna lie. And I've been clean 36 years, and I still have a hard time letting people in, especially when it comes to a woman. Now, I got women's friends. I got associates. But I had to learn that when I admitted to God and told on myself and started telling God of everything, you know, I always told people this, you know, honesty is not a life-threatening thing. It's a good thing. It's a good thing for us to open up and tell somebody all the wrongs. It's like writing a letter to everyone you done hurt. But now you opening your mouth and you saying it out your mouth is a different than writing a letter. I remember when I had my sponsor, we met up and we was in there, and I mean, I had to, you know, she kind of had to groom me in, and it was a slow process, and I wanted her to know I'm broken. I am very so broken. It's okay. I couldn't even tell nobody that I was broken. I couldn't tell nobody that I was hurting. I couldn't tell nobody who hurt me or who used me. And then I tried to pay back and end up doing something detrimental that could have brought death or harm to myself. You know, I couldn't tell nobody that. But this step right here, working the steps, have helped me honor my position that I need to do with these steps. They wrote these steps just for us because they know what the human being goes through. I don't trust everybody. My daughter told me the other day, she said, Mom, you know, you like peoples and you play with peoples, but you don't trust them. Protection mode. And I had to get that way, and I'm not saying that maybe it's safe to stay that way, but for me it is. Because when you got a forgiving heart, when you got a heart that wants to love and be loved, and then you don't get it or you perceive it. But see, when I admitted to God, the confession mode, when I got on the confession mode, admit to God everything and speaking about my hidden past and learning how to let go and tell my sponsor. But at first, I didn't even think my sponsor was worthy for hearing it, or another human being. That's why when I first got to a meeting, I didn't say nothing for about a year. I used to sit at the table. I wouldn't say nothing. I listened. Somebody said, put the cotton in your mouth and listen. That's what I done. I'm like, you know, I was trying to find a way to get out. All this mess ain't real. All these people pretending. And they kept saying, come on. Stay till the miracle happen. And that baffled me. And I kept staying. And I kept going. I kept staying. I kept going. And guess what? A miracle did happen. I got it. Freedom from drugs is a lifetime change thing. All I got to do is stop using. All I got to do is stop drinking, stop using, stop popping pills, stop and work on my behaviors. My character is all messed up due to my using and behavior. So when I started step 5, when I got on step 5, I was ready, because step 4, I had been ready. But when I got to step 5, I'm like, ooh, whoa. Step 4 and step 5 is merging in together, and it's kind of got some similarities. And step 5 is the confession step. That's what I like this step. But I didn't know how to confess. I didn't want to confess to nobody. But I needed to. I needed to heal. I needed to restore. I had to get in the motion of understanding, why do I allow people to hurt me when I was already hurt? That got me. God, let me tell you, and let me tell another human being. But I ain't telling another human being everything that I done like I told my sponsor. I told my sponsor everything. But it helped me. It helped put my life in order. Every day that I wake up and I realize that I'm still clean is another day that I thank God and show him that I am a grateful addict. Because I'll never use again. I don't care what happened. I done been through some mess since I've been clean. But I never thought one time I did. I ain't gonna lie. And I had them over 30 years. And one time, couple times, two, I wanted to use when my mother died, because that was a pain that I felt so great that I didn't understand. And and then the time I was going to jump over the bridge off of 35th Street. It was some times in my life that I had felt so humiliated because I kept using. And then once I stopped using, my behaviors didn't change right away. My character stayed the same. But as I kept staying clean, kept going to meetings, start listening to other people, my character, I worked on me. My behavior, you're going to have to work on yourself. Some of y'all, y'all live for other people's, and I did too. So I ain't going to, I'm going to put myself in that category, but I live for me. I help everybody. I'm a helper. I help everybody. But now I live for me to show myself that I was worthy of change. I was worthy. This step right here, was such an amazing step. Self-examination. That means search yourself. Examine yourself. Some of us ain't got time. We so busy people pleasing and worrying about what the next person say or whatever. Not me. I take time. I stay away from everybody for 2 to 3 weeks. Won't nobody see me. You better ask somebody. I have to always energize myself and furnish myself. So sometimes I just get away and I just stay away. And I've been doing that, but that's a protection mode for me, because I know I cannot fall back into whatever the stuff I was in before. As long as I don't use, I don't have to. I've learned how to minimize my being here. It's because I love being where I'm at today. So we admitted to God. I did that. I confessed to God. I talked about all the wrongs that I have done. I told God to forgive me. I said, God, open up the doors for me so you can hear all the hurt, all the wrongs I've done. I need to admit to you, God, that I'm sorry. And God, while I'm on that journey, while I'm talking to you, I need to admit to myself. So when I'm talking to you, God, I'm really healing myself within, because I'm saying it out of my mouth, and I never had the courage to say anything that I was feeling out of my mouth that was detrimental to me. But once I started admitting to God and telling him every wrongs, what I had done, and then turn around and I know I'm healing me, and then to another human being, the exact nature of my wrongs, I knew things was opening, the doors was opening, and I knew God was healing us, and that's what I love about these steps, because this step do more than we think it does. It creates a filter in our head to where I didn't know that. What? That's why I felt that way. What? That's why I carried that. These steps help me. That's why I lay on my bed every night before I go to bed, and I focus on one step. Then I go to the next step. Then I understand and try to put myself in them situations. Step 5 is about a lot of honesty. It's a lot of confessions about being honest about yourself. And some people don't want to do that. Some people think they can work a step without doing what the step says you got to do. But I worked on my steps. That's where I'm at today. It hurts me when I see all my peoples on the ground, on drugs, dying on the streets. It could have been you, and it could have been me. And that's why I work so hard to keep myself together. And you all going to have to do the same thing. Same thing. And I thank God, I thank God for just being who he is. And, and I knew this whole step was about integrity. And it was about courage. When you dealing in step 5, honesty, humility, you're going to go through some things in this step because it's going to take you back about all the stuff you had did wrong and mistreated or hurted somebody. I had to face the fears of, because at first the fears didn't want me to do this step because it didn't want me to grow. Okay, y'all. Thank y'all for listening to me. I think I know I didn't help somebody to understand this step a little better than I did last time. But anyway, we are on step 6 for Sunday. And we were entirely ready. I like this one too. We were entirely ready to have God to remove all these defects of character. And some of us still got that. It takes work. It takes work. Thank y'all. If anybody haven't told you that they love you, tell them that Miss Renee said they love you. Do something nice and kind for someone today. I will see y'all next Sunday on step 6. And in this principle, this step right here talks about willingness. This is a good step. You got to be willing to do this step. I'll talk about that Sunday. But anyway, God bless you. We're going to close out. Thank you to Stella. Thank you to Robin. Thank you to Bernadette. And for all the other ones who comes on through the day, through the night. Thank y'all so very much for being a part of my process and for me being a part of your process. I thank you so very much. And do good by people. And good gonna always come to you no matter how it look. It's always gonna come back to you. And we're gonna close with the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom. What you say, Renee? The wisdom. What you say, Renee? The wisdom to know the difference. I get stuck on that part. I get stuck on that part. When it says the wisdom, that means I done gained something. I done learned something. The wisdom. All them gray strings, little gray strings that come in my hair, that's wisdom. To know the difference. God bless you. Have a safe next week. Find yourself, love yourself, do an examination of yourself so you can open up and tell the truth about some things that you know you did wrong so you can forgive yourself. The best thing to do in this world is to forgive ourselves. May God continue to bless you. Thank y'all so very much, and I love y'all. Have a good evening on this Sunday.